Quick disclaimer, some of the audio is going to be a little bit rough. There's some background noise that you're going to hear, but that's kind of the best audio I could get, so just deal with it and move on with the video. And I really hope you enjoy. Everything is getting more expensive, from the games to the consoles. The base PS5 is $650, the base Xbox Series X is $650, the Nintendo Switch 2 is $500, and the Steam Machine is what? As much as I love console gaming, the barrier for entry is immense now, and to pay for games on top of that is absolutely crazy. And I think that's why there's been a surge of people returning to their old consoles, like the 3DS, Wii, Wii U, and emulation for PS2, PSP, GameCube, and more. But there's still only so much you can do with those consoles. That's why I feel that the future of gaming consoles lies in the retro gaming handhelds. And retro gaming is pretty loose at this point. There's a variety of handhelds that can handle some modern titles. Okay, so what am I talking about? These handhelds are usually Android-based devices that are built for gaming, and can handle anything from the Nintendo Switch to the PS2 and older, even some PC games if they're lightweight or well optimized. All of this for half the price of the current mainstream market, and I want one. This video is definitely going to come across as me just shilling for some of these consoles and brands, but I'm just really excited to talk about these things, alright? Just let me have it. There are two brands that I really want to focus on today. AYN, or AYN, and Retroid. Of course, there are many other companies that will have similar devices, like INO, Ambernic, and Miu. It's all about doing your own research, finding out what you want with your console, and the price you're willing to pay. AYN is probably the one y'all already know. Their Thor has completely taken over the handheld emulation space, being one of the most powerful and fairly affordable consoles that are meant for emulating DS, 3DS, and even more demanding games. And with front ends like Isu or Cocoon, it can truly feel like a modern rendition of a childhood console. They also have the Odin, which is basically your Switch/Steam Deck-like console, which is pretty powerful in its own right. I particularly like the Odin Mini, which is PSP-sized, but they don't make those anymore. Just please start making them again. But despite what AYN has to offer, the one I actually want is the Retroid Pocket 6. By Retroid, of course. It may be less powerful than the previous handhelds mentioned, but I don't need it to have the best specs to play the games I want to play, and it's still pretty strong in its own right. It is also incredibly portable, being smaller than the Switch Lite, all without compromising its capabilities. But what I love most about the Pocket 6, and the Retroid Pockets in general, is the dual screen add-on. As much as I love the clamshell design, I don't want or need two screens unless I'm playing these 3DS titles. So being able to switch between a single screen console and make it into a dual screen console is a pretty cool idea. And with the recently released Pocket Nova and its 4:3 aspect ratio, it makes it look like a 3DS when paired with a dual screen. And just having that customizability is amazing, and nothing I've ever seen from any other gaming handheld. And speaking of customization, you can make it look however you want, which is true for all of these gaming handhelds, by the way. Since it is an Android device, you can set it up with your own wallpaper, or if you're using the front ends like I mentioned before, you can customize those to your heart's content. And this is more of a side thing, but since it is just an Android device, you can use it as an MP3 player, or watch videos on it, or any other things you can do that is on your phone or something. I mean, it's not meant for that, but I can now message my friends on Discord about the Roblox games we can play later. I mean, if it could handle it, it depends on what you get. I'm not sponsored by any of these brands, even though that'd be great, but I think that just goes to show how much I truly appreciate these handhelds and what they're going for. Obviously, these devices won't outright replace the industry standard. This thing isn't running Elden Ring or any other AAA game. I mean, maybe, but that's not what they're meant for. These things are truly portable, affordable, and best of all, open you to play more games. I've always wanted to play more retro games, but the official ways to do it can be lackluster, and emulating it on PC simply does not feel great to play for me. Having a dedicated device that can play the games that I really want to play, without having to pay outrageous prices for older games, is a deal that you can't really argue with. I think the biggest deciding thing for me is the form factor, because that is really the most important thing when I'm playing games. At least for me. That's why I opt to play most of my games on my Switch 2, rather than on my computer, despite any graphical limitations. So for half the price of a typical console, you can get way more value out of retro gaming than any other way in my opinion. And if that's still out of your budget, there are other even cheaper alternatives if you only want to play GBA, SNES, or PS1 games, like the Retroid Pocket Classic or the Miu handhelds. Again, it's all about doing your own research. So why has there been such an explosion in popularity of things like the AYN Thor and other gaming handhelds? Well, I believe it comes from how people want to play games. Even without factoring in the price for the new consoles and games, I've seen a rise in players wanting smaller gaming experiences, akin to how gaming used to be on dedicated handhelds. It's been talked about to death by so many people at this point, but playing a game on the bus or while waiting for an appointment is something that's just missed in modern gaming. Not everything needs to be a large 80-100 hour experience. I just like popping in, playing for 30 minutes to an hour, and be done with it for the rest of the day. I'm not saying I don't like the larger games. Some of my favorite games I've played the past year have been larger games. I'm just saying that there's no space for big name companies to have smaller games on. And I think that's been lost because these big game companies value their large games more than building a smaller experience that'll take time and money away from those big projects. It's a risk and it's not worth it in their eyes. But these new handhelds and their growing fan base shows that there is an audience that values smaller gaming experiences. I mean, why do you think people have been modding their old Switch, 3DSs, Wiis, PSPs? It's all just to make gaming simpler. People want to get away from the large AAA slop where everything needs to be hyper-realistic with the battle pass and play at a million FPS with regular content updates or updates that should have been there at launch, and an in-game currency where you can buy cosmetics or gacha mechanic. I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with this game format, but when it's done so often from every game studio, pushing out new ones almost every year, it starts to feel stale. Returning to older consoles that have games with all their content in it from day one with no changes is really refreshing. This is going to be a bit of a tangent, but I love watching video game speedruns, and the most impressive part of it is those game-breaking skips that allow runners to complete the game in much faster times. It's a big community effort to find, optimize, and perfect these skips, and to have such a thing patched out in the next update is just hurting that community. These are going to be the people that play your game for years to come, and you just want to alienate that audience by taking out aspects of a game that made it fun? That's just crazy. For example, Super Mario 64 is one of, if not the most speedran game ever, and it has this technique called backwards long jumping, an essential move created by the community to beat the game faster, and it was patched out on the 3D All-Stars version of the game. It is just like, why? There's no reason to take out a fun part of the game just because it was unintentional. I could really make an entire video just about this topic and how it's really changing the space in modern gaming. But if you really want to see that, you need to like and subscribe first, so please do that. Yes, thank you. Anyways, tangent over. Whether it's for nostalgia reasons, or you just want to get into games that you haven't played before on original hardware, or you want to mod them and make the most out of these older consoles, stepping away from modern gaming is all just to make it fun to play again. The Thor, the Pocket 6, and all these other devices is just the natural next step in that. It delivers on what this group of gamers want out of gaming. And that doesn't just stop at consoles. I think another aspect of the gaming industry that has been growing in recent years has been indie games. Mina the Hollower, Slay the Spire 2, Mugenics, Mouse, Pi for Hire. All these amazing and non-demanding games can be played on these handhelds. Don't forget about The Binding of Isaac, Hades, Balatro, and so much more. It's an entire world that most people just aren't tapped into, I feel. The gaming community is rejecting modern standards, and it doesn't seem like it's getting better anytime soon. What do you mean you're not selling physical games anymore, PlayStation? What do you mean you laid off all your employees, Xbox? What do you mean the Steam machine is $1,000, Valve? What do you mean you're raising the salaries of your employees and hiring more this year, Nintendo? Wait, that's good. I'm sure Nintendo's doing some shady stuff in the back. Don't worry, we're good. In any case, this video was really just made for me to yap about these devices because I find them just so damn cool. But as I've said before, the AYN Thor or the Retroid Pocket 6 or any of these devices cannot outright replace a Steam Deck or a Switch 2. But they are cheaper alternatives for handhelds that can emulate most, if not all, retro games, can run new indie titles pretty well, and has a lot of customization that can truly make the console your own. If I can be completely transparent with y'all, I don't actually own any of these gaming handhelds myself. My brother has a Thor, but that's about all the exposure I've had with it. Until now! That's right, I took too long to make this video, and in that time, my very own Retroid Pocket 6 has arrived. It has definitely been worthwhile in the time I've had it so far, so be ready for a video in the future going over this console. Eventually, my upload schedule was pretty whack. The future of gaming consoles is a lot different from what I had in mind, because from what I'm seeing, these will only grow more popular as the years go on, and if these big companies don't get their act together, they might have some real competition with these little devices. Thank you for watching and listening to me yap about these little handheld devices. But yeah, like, comment, and subscribe for more if you like this kind of thing. And remember, it's always afternoon, so good afternoon and goodbye.